Hey, what's up YouTube? Here with another video, and today I'm here to ask a question. What happened to Western RPGs? I think for a long time, or maybe even still nowadays, I think these games are some of the most beloved in gaming usually. We're talking about Skyrim, Fallout 3, New Vegas, the original Mass Effect trilogy, Dragon Age, KOTOR. Like, these are games that, even though now they're getting kind of up there in age, they're still extremely relevant. They're still the baseline in a lot of ways for when people are talking about great RPGs, games with choice, games with great companions, right? That kind of thing. It's not like we don't ever get good ones now. Baldur's Gate 3 obviously is one of the best games to come out in recent years, but that game is also clearly an outlier when it comes to how it was made. It was in early access for a long time, right? So it's a different kind of development cycle than something like Skyrim or something, right? The people at Larian and the people making that game just had a lot more breathing room and leeway and time and space to really make that game how they wanted to make it. They didn't have deadlines. Anytime I hear a criticism of that game, it's always talking about the third act, the ending of the game, or the third act in general. And I think that makes sense when we think about, well, they had a long time to focus and polish the first two acts, but then when it was time to actually release the game, they kind of rushed through the third one. In theory, I honestly haven't even beaten the third act. I'm near the end of the second one, but whatever. Baldur's Gate 3 is an outlier, is what I'm trying to say, right? But when it comes to Bethesda's next big RPG after Fallout 4, which was already a little controversial when it comes to the actual RPG-ness of that game, I think Fallout 4 is a fun game. I have the platinum for it actually, and I got the platinum pretty recently. It was this year with the next gen update. I had a lot of fun playing it, but the reason why I had a lot of fun playing it isn't because of the writing and the dialogue and the companions, the stuff that you come to these series for. It was just because it's a fun game to play with the build diversity and just finding things, collectibles, and leveling up your guy and getting stronger. It's just fun in that sense. But Starfield, probably, I haven't played Veilguard yet, so maybe that will be my new biggest disappointment, but probably when I think of a game that disappointed me, a game where I did not think it could fail. Like, I did not think it could be bad. Like, the idea that I would get through the end of Starfield and come out the other end and say, I didn't like the game. Like, the idea of that to me before I played it, well, it was like, no. What? No. There's no way. Even though you listen to some of the design choices, you watch the gameplay, and you're like, yeah, but it's Fallout in space, and it's Bethesda, and this is their next game, and they're being backed by Xbox, and they're updating their engine, right? There's no way it's not going to be good. And then you play Starfield, and as someone who is a big fan of Skyrim, at the very least, and Fallout 4, it's crazy how much that game is almost the total antithesis, the total opposite of what people come to those games for. I would assume, people like Starfield, but there's also a lot of people that do not like Starfield, and I'm one of those people, and I agree. The perk system, the level up system, it is extremely middling and bare bones compared to even something like fucking Oblivion. The idea that if I want to level up ballistic weapons, I spend the perk point, and then before I get the next perk point, I have to kill a set amount of people. Like, that's some 2004 level fucking games design. Like, that's some amateur level games design. Like what are we doing? Like, why is this in our big budget RPG? The loot is horrible. All of it's procedurally generated. There are a few unique armor sets, but there's only one unique gun as far as I know. When you finish the game, you get a gun. But even that's null and void because you're going to go into New Game Plus most likely right after you finish the game and then lose the one fucking unique gun that the entire game has. It's crazy. Part of the reason why something like Skyrim and Fallout 4 is replayable and why people like to come back and mod those games, because on a base level, it's fun to start from level 1 and build up your character down a set path with a variety of different build options, with a variety of different unique weapons that you can find. And that's core to the experience, especially when we're talking about Bethesda games, less so when we're talking about BioWare. I think BioWare excelled at the writing and the dialogue and the story and all that other shit. But if we're sticking to Bethesda and Starfield, how bad that game is honestly, I still can't believe it. I still don't like. I spent $100 on that game so I could play it 2 days, 3 days early or whatever. And when I tell you the entire 50 to 60 hours I spent playing that game was just cool. It was just, no, what? No. And eventually I'm going to find a unique weapon, or eventually I'm going to like this quest, or maybe I'll find a skill from this weird starborn power system. Maybe one of those skills will actually be cool. But no, what I'm getting at is Starfield is horrible. And it's crazy that Starfield is horrible coming from the people that made Skyrim, Oblivion, Morrowind, even Fallout 4. As much as, that game is controversial, even Fallout 4 has a lot of good qualities to it. None of that is in Starfield. None of it. But then let's look at BioWare. Pretty much the reason why I wanted to make this video is because I was extremely excited for the Veilguard, to the point where I don't have a PlayStation right now, because the plan was to get a Pro and play Veilguard with it. That was like, Veilguard was going to be a reason for me to upgrade my PlayStation. And then the reviews came out, and man, at the end of the day, you got to play the game for yourself to really know, to really know, how much you are or are not going to like something. But the clips, some of the reviews I've watched, and it's very clear that it seems like a fun action adventure game. But as far as the companions, the writing, the dialogue, that nuance, that role playing that you would come to these games for, it's not there. It's not there, and it breaks my heart, man, because we wait a really long time for these games. Like, how long was it in between fucking Veilguard and Inquisition? Like, how long was it between Fallout 4 and Starfield? Like, these games are damn near decades apart, and then they come out and it's not even that, like, they're slightly disappointing. Maybe our expectations were too high and it's our fault. It's like, no, like, they're just not good. They're just not good. At least when it comes to a lot of the aspects that people would come to these games for. Good writing, good dialogue, interesting, nuanced characters, characters that can bounce off each other and not just feel like they're the main character's best friend, interesting worlds and conflicts, choices with real alternate outcomes and varieties, and decision making that is more nuanced than Paragon Renegade. But even Paragon and Renegade is fun. Even the choice of, do I want to be the altruistic super good guy or the really mean guy who punches people in the face, even that level of just, it's only 2 options, pick, is fun and more interesting than the alternative where it's fake options. Like, it's just different variations of yes or different variations of no, but there isn't any variation. It's like there's choices in what you can say in the dialogue, but very rarely does it amount to anything actually different, which is what it seems like it is in Veilguard. Oh my god, it breaks my heart. It really does. Apart from me just being disappointed that that game isn't as good as I thought it was going to be, it made me pick up Dragon Age Origins. I have dabbled in that game in the past, when I was a kid, but I was definitely too, my fucking feeble 12, 13-year-old mind, like, just couldn't comprehend Dragon Age Origins, and I definitely wouldn't have appreciated it like I can now. especially because I didn't start with Origins. My first bioware game was Mass Effect 2. Then after that, I played Dragon Age 2, and going from that to Origins, it's hard, especially as a fucking 13-year-old, right? You know, I saw there was no good guy, bad guy, and I was like, what? You know, so since then, when I got a PC, I've downloaded it off, you know, when it was super cheap and booted it up, but I never got past like in the first hour, maybe probably not even at the first hour. Seeing the reviews of Veilguard and knowing like, oh, okay, like I don't have to spend $70 on Veilguard. Let me just boot up Origins, you know, let me try and get my fix that way. It's kind of blowing me away, honestly. I have played KOTOR 1. I've played it on the Switch, but I've never beaten that game. But that game also has great writing and dialogue in that nuance, so it prepared me pretty much for Origins, because Origins is pretty much just a spiritual successor to KOTOR. You know, even just playing the game, like the way the dialogue trees work and the way the camera works, it's pretty much just a different KOTOR. I'm playing this game, and it's just, it's crazy that this game came out, I don't know, maybe 2008, 2009 maybe, I don't know. I'll fucking look it up and throw it up on the screen. But I'm listening to these characters, I'm getting put in these scenarios, and I'm having fun. And the dialogue is interesting, and the characters are fun, and the voice acting is good, and it's like the tone, the atmosphere, like it's mature, but because it's mature, when it gets goofy and lighthearted, it still has charm to it, because it's not only Goofy and Disney and Pixar, and he's right behind me, isn't he? You know, like there can be moments like that in your media or whatever, but it's like they have to be interspiced, intertwined in between actual good fucking writing and interesting and nuanced dialogue and characters. And I'm playing Dragon Age, and this game has it, man. It has it all.
You were there. You saw what happened.
Yes, I know. I've had some time to think about it now.
You let Lady Isolde sacrifice herself with blood magic. How could you do that? She was grasping at straws. Of course she would sacrifice herself. She felt guilty for what happened. But there must have been another way. This is the Arl's wife we're talking about here. What do you think he'll say when we revive him? What? Of course we should revive him. That hasn't changed. I just don't know how you could do it, how you could make that decision.
Oh, he tweaking.
I owe the Arl more than this.
The intro of the game, like, you start off and both your parents pretty much die, and there's nothing you can do about it. And immediately there's different plot points that are all interesting. Like, you have the Darkspawn threat, the overlooming threat. You have Hal, who betrayed your family and got your whole family killed. You have Logain, who abandoned you at the keep, and he was supposed to come and help you, and he's one of the reasons why you're the last Grey Warden, because he didn't help them, and now they're all dead. Like, all this shit is set up within like the first 3 hours of the game, and the way it expands and just builds off of that and combines that with the companions and the way they have opinions on the things that are going on, and they feel like real people. And it's like, wow, you know, the last time I felt like this was Baldur's Gate 3, you know. And it's crazy that I'm not getting this from Bethesda. I'm not getting this from BioWare. Even Obsidian. Outer Worlds, it's alright. It's good. It definitely has great writing, but the RPG, like, perk system, again, like, kind of middling, kind of mid. Gameplay, pretty whatever. I did beat that game. I think that game just needs more production. Honestly, it needs more money before it can really compete with something like New Vegas, you know. Even then, like, the initial intrigue, like New Vegas, post-apocalyptic, nuclear, or like the Outer Worlds, where it's just like future space, you know, Fallout and Skyrim, you know, medieval fantasy, that in itself is just more interesting to me than what's going on in the Outer Worlds. But I beat the Outer Worlds. I like the Outer Worlds. It's a game that, as a Western RPG, it has some of the qualities, not all of them. And I guess that's the problem. We're not getting the games that are hitting the way that they used to. You know, they come out and there's always like that caveat, like with the Veilguard. It's like, oh yeah, it's a fun game. It's a fun action game. But if you're going into it thinking it's gonna be like Dragon Age Origins, you're not gonna have a good time, which kind of sucks. I mean, it's fucking called Dragon Age, right? Forgot about Mass Effect Andromeda. You know, that game, fucking holy shit, right? What happened? What happened? I don't know. Like, I'm sitting here bewildered, genuinely, because it's like, so like I gotta wait another decade for another Western RPG to come out, and like what, it's still not gonna be as good as fucking Skyrim. It's still not gonna be as good as New Vegas. It's still not gonna be as good as Dragon Age Origins. What are we doing? What are we doing, guys? You know, some people will say the reason is, oh, it's DEI. You know, everything's woke now. I do think that is a small part of it. You know, I think there are people in positions that are more focused on representation more than the fucking shit being good and interesting. And I do think representation is important. You know, there was a point in time in gaming where legitimately everything was a white guy, just a white straight guy was the main character with a bunch of white straight sidekicks and the one token black guy. Like, yeah, like there was a point in time where like that was true. We're way past that, and now it's almost like a overcorrection. Like, we went from, oh, like Spider-Man's black now, that's cool, to like there's trans characters in Dragon Age, my dark medieval fantasy game. Like, you know what I mean? Like listen, like if they made it work, I don't think anyone would be complaining. I think the problem is that it's clearly very shoehorned in, and these things can be done right. I think Last of Us 2, for as much shit as that game gets, it's the way it implements Lev as a trans character. Dina is Jewish, you know. Dina and Ellie have this nice loving lesbian relationship. Like, the way that game tackles those subjects, it's way more believable and organic. Like, Lev's transgender arc or whatever, like, it's interesting because it's not just about the fact that Lev is transgender. It's about the fact that it's a character who is having identity issues, but she was born and raised in a crazy religious cult where the women gotta be in the kitchen and the men gotta go hunt. Like, okay, like that's interesting. That is having something to say. Whether or not they did it perfectly, I think inherently that's more believable, and I'm more willing to like meet you halfway than like, oh, a trans, like just all of a sudden a Quinari, these battle hungry, you know, strong warriors. There's this trans, and it's weird because it's like a lot of people are upset about the fact that there's a transgender, period, right? It's like they don't want any nuance. They don't like they don't care for the representation. You put a transgender in the game, it's woke, it's bad. And it's like there can be something in the middle. It's so weird. There can be something in the middle. But these clips I'm seeing, and granted they are clips, I haven't played the game, but these clips I'm seeing, it's like it doesn't feel organic. It doesn't feel nuanced. It just feels like they're trying to point a fucking finger in my face and like, you're a bigot and you need to change and you need to be more accepting. And it's like, well, what if I'm already accepting? You know what I mean? Like, what if I don't need you to fucking ham fist this shit into my rated M dark fantasy RPG? Like, you know, like, and I think a big problem with is anytime those topics are brought up, it's never with the level of nuance to like tackle all angles, all sides, right? Because let's be real, guys. If there was a transgender character in fucking like Game of Thrones or some shit, like, come on, like people would not be as accepting and blah blah blah. But of course, the way it is in fucking Dragon Age, it's like, oh, you gotta be who you are type shit. And again, I get it. That message it's cool. I get it. It's fine. In my dark fantasy rated M RPG named fucking Dragon Age, really? Oh my god, man. I've definitely reached the part of the video where I'm just yapping, preaching to the void, talking about nothing. I'm just sad. I'm just sad that, like, I mean, it's you know, Baldur's Gate 3, it's there, but like, should we say goodbye to Bethesda and BioWare and even like Obsidian? Like, Avowed is looking alright, you know, like it's looking okay. Fable looks kind of cool, but like ain't none from Xbox Studios hit in the last decade. So until I play that game, I can't really get excited for it. It just sucks. Like, what's going on with Western RPGs? Like that's gonna be the title of the video, and that's genuinely how I feel. Like, what is happening to them? You know, like, will we get a good one? That's it. Let me know your favorite Western RPGs. Let me know if I'm wrong. Let me know if I'm a bigot. Let me know if, you know, there are good Western RPGs. I'm just not looking for them because I'm too focused on Bethesda and Obsidian and BioWare. You know, let me know what you think. So that's the end of the video, and thank you for watching.